So welcome everyone. I'm really happy to be here today. Our class theme is going to be working with the lungs and the chest and the large intestines. So those are the meridian channels that we're going to work with. On a physical level, we're going to work the musculature of the chest and of the back. And the reason why I chose this particular sequence for this class is because what's really interesting is in the last few days, I don't know if it's just because we're getting, a cold front coming in terms of like the weather temperature is changing, but I've heard from a number of people lately, oh, I can't take a deep breath. Like it's really hard for me to take a deep breath in here. Like it's all shallow and it's stuck and it's congested. So often what happens when the weather is really cold, and especially when we shift into a cold spell really quickly, is that the body just, especially the intercostal muscles that sit between your ribs, they get really tight and irritated. And when that happens, they get restricted and they create limited range of motion in the area. So in the diaphragm and in the chest. And as a result of that, what ends up happening is you can't breathe deep. It's just physically not possible. It's like you either feel like you have a weight on your chest, or it's just like you just can't get it in there. So we're going to work at really opening up this area on a physical level. Now, on an energetic level, we're going to be working with the emotions of grief, sadness, depression, heaviness, just a feeling of being disordered. So if any of that resonates with you, then you can kind of just, park that in the back of the mind. It doesn't necessarily have to be right at the forefront of your mind in terms of your practice. Maybe you're here more because your chest is really tight. I mean, maybe you worked out yesterday and you were weightlifting upper body stuff, and then this is just like, it's tense. So we're gonna tackle a number of different challenges that you might be experiencing. Just keep an open mind to the fact that the body and the mind are fully interconnected, and everything works together in the body with the mind. So even if you have one intention for your practice, there may be several other things that might benefit you in your practice, even things that you're not even aware of. Okay. So we're going to start with an acupressure meditation. So finding yourself just sitting really comfortable and tall. If you need to adjust your shape in any way so that you can just feel really kind of effortless sitting. Okay. We're going to be working with the channels of the lung. So I'm just going to move my scarf around. I still want to keep it around the back of my neck because I want to keep this area warm. But if you bring your hands onto your collarbones, okay, and then I want you to kind of veer towards the outer edge of your collarbone. Like obviously if you're closer here, this is closer to the sternum. So veer off towards the end of the collarbones. And then when you get there, I want you to trace down about 3 finger widths, okay? When you get there, I want you to land your thumb and index fingers together and actually rest it there, okay? And then your arms are down by your sides, so your elbows are nice and relaxed. And you're just gonna start to make some little circles. Doesn't matter which direction you go in, you're just keeping the thumb and index fingers together, and you're just making these little circular motions. Once you have that, that motion into place, then you can close your eyes. And we're actually going to do a wave breath technique. We're going to do 3 rounds of this technique, and then we're just going to let the breath flow on its own. So this wave breath is in 3 different parts. So we're going to breathe into the belly first, and then we'll breathe into the diaphragm, and then we'll breathe into the chest. And we're going to pause between each breath cycle before we move to the next layer. Okay. Now, whatever direction you're going with your circles, start to go the opposite way. And then take a small inhale into the belly. Hold that in. and then take in just a little bit more air so you feel your ribs expand just a little bit. And then take another breath in up into the chest. And then slowly exhale. So slowly exhale the breath. Once you're completely empty, then you'll do another round. So you'll take a breath into the belly. And then you'll breathe into your ribs. So that's the second part. And then you'll breathe up into the chest. That's the third part. And then when you're ready, you'll slowly exhale. Okay. So that's the rhythm you're going to go with. I want you to continue this at your own pace. You're going to continue these little small circles just underneath your collarbone on the lung 1 point. This is known in acupressure as letting go point. So you can interpret that however you like, whether it's letting go of tension in your chest, whether it's letting go of something emotional that's heavy, that's weighing you down. And then just allowing the breath to soften as you exhale. Do one more round of this 3-part breath. So inhaling to the belly, and then into the ribs, and then into the chest. And at the end, once you exhale completely, you're going to pause and rest your hands onto your lap, keeping your eyes closed. And just see what you can notice with the breath first. Just see if you have any kind of expansion in through your chest muscles already. I mean, it might be very subtle, especially if you're really feeling very congested or tight in there. Okay, and then if the eyes are closed, just open the eyes for a moment. You're going to take your hands into fists, okay? Now you want to have just like a bit of a hollow, the inside, like I could take my finger and place it in through there. So you just have a little bit of a hollow, and that hollowing is going to press against this lung 1 point. So if you need to, just retrace underneath the collarbone 3 fingers width, make your fist. The hollow part is pressing against the chest. You're just gonna lightly tap, just lightly tap. It's not like Tarzan or anything like that. It's a really soft tap. And once you have that rhythm of tapping, you're gonna close your eyes and you'll take 3 rounds of that wave breath. Okay, so you'll inhale to the belly first and then pause for a moment. And then you'll inhale up into the ribs and you'll pause again. And then you'll take your third breath all the way up, maybe right up into your collarbones. And then you'll slowly exhale. Once you're done the 3 rounds, I want you to take your time. So don't rush this process here. Once you're done all 3, then again, you'll just rest the hands onto the lap with the eyes closed. And I want you to just continue letting the breath flow on its own. Just noticing if there's any capacity to take a deeper breath without forcing or pushing it. So this exercise is really good to do if you're congested in your chest. So whether you're like, you have a bit of a chest cold or like an asthma reaction, or any kind of like respiratory distress, or even if you've just been very anxious throughout your day and you've been breathing really shallow. Okay. All right. So then the last exercise that we're going to do before we begin our yin practice, we're going to be tapping again, but then we're going to be tapping down the inside of the arms where the yin meridian line is for the lung. And then we're going to be tapping up the front of the arm, which is the yang meridian line, which is the large intestine. Okay. We're going to start at the lung points. So you're going to place again your hands onto lung 1 point here. Palms are facing in. You're going to take a deep breath in and take a long breath out. and then extend your right arm out in front of you. Keep the elbow soft and the elbow and the shoulder relaxed here. You're going to start to tap with the left hand on the right lung point. So you're going to tap 1, 2, 3. Then you're going to start to tap lightly all the way down the inside of the arm, all the way to the top, the thumb, because that's the end of the large intestine meridian line. And then you're going to go to the index finger and then turn your hand over and start to tap all the way up. And then you'll turn over again, come back to the lung 1 point, tap 3 times, and then you'll tap all the way down the arm, all the way to the thumb and the index finger. Then you'll turn over and go up the arm, back to the lung point, and pause there. Just keeping the hand resting on there for a moment while you take a breath in and out. And see if you can start to tap into like a tingling sensation or like the energy actually flowing through. And then we're going to do the other side. I'm just going to switch out my legs. So feel free if you're in a cross-legged position, if you want to just kind of readjust your shape a little bit. Bring the hands then back onto your lung 1 point. And then you'll take a breath in and a breath out. And then take the right hand, place it just below that left collarbone, and extend your left arm out. And then tap 3 times here, 1, 2, and 3, and then begin to tap all the way down the arm. Right to the thumb and right up to the index finger, then turn over, go all the way up, back to the lung point, turn over, you're here 3 taps, and then you're tapping all the way back down, turning the hand over, going all the way back up, back to the lung point, and then pause. Taking a couple of nice, slow, deep breaths. And then release, hands onto the body somewhere. They might be on the chest, or you might just rest your hands in your lap. And again, just notice if you can feel anything flowing through the arms. And then let the eyes open. The next exercise we're going to do, we're just going to bring our thumb and index fingers again together. You're going to press against that lung point. This is a really short exercise. You're going to make circles going forward with your elbows. 3 times forward, and then 3 times back. And then you'll pause and place the palms onto the lung 1 point. You'll take a nice long deep breath in. Long breath out. And then let the eyes open. We're going to start our practice now. All right, so our first posture that we're coming into is called broken wing. It works with the meridian lines down through the arms and the front of the chest. Okay. So we're going to be coming down onto the belly. If you had a scarf on, you might want to take that off. You just want to make sure that your neck feels comfortable. Have either like a cushion or a block or something at the top of your mat so that you've got something to land your head onto. Okay. So when you come down onto your belly, your legs are outstretched back behind you. Take your feet just a little bit wider, and then take your left arm and extend it straight out from your shoulder with your palm facing down. Okay. So option 1, if you have any shoulder injuries, you're going to stay here and you're just going to rest your forehead down either on your palm or on a cushion or a block. Okay. If your shoulder joint is okay, then you're going to roll over onto your left side and stack the knees one on top of the other. You can even take a block and tuck it between your knees if you like. And this is where something underneath the side of the head feels good. And then the right arm is going to extend up. Option 1 is to place it onto the top hip. Option 2 is to place the forearm onto the low back so that your palm is facing out. Option 3 is to take the arm straight up from the shoulder at 90 degrees and keep it there. Okay, so this is a little more active, but you can also roll the shoulder back a little bit so the back of the hand is facing back behind you. You want to make sure that your shoulder joint feels comfortable on that left side. So if you're feeling like it's straining at all, I want you to come back to the option number 1, where the arm is just straight out from the shoulder. And then once you get into position here and you've made any little minor adjustments that you need to just land yourself into a place of spaciousness, then I want you to do 3 rounds of that 3-part wave breath. And then at the end of the 3rd round, you're just going to let the breath go. Don't worry about trying to inhale or exhale in any certain way. I just want you to let it flow on its own. So your 3 parts again are you'll inhale to the belly, pause, inhale a little bit more up into the ribs, pause, and then breathe up into the chest, pause. And then you'll exhale slowly. And at the end of the exhale, pause for a moment. And then you'll do a couple of more cycles of that breath pattern. And then you'll just let it go. So with the arm outstretched, we are activating not just only the lung meridian line, but also the heart and small intestine meridian lines as well. So if you had dinner about, say, a couple of hours ago and it's now in the small intestine, it's probably feeling it could be feeling a little bit tender right now, just because there is food in your small intestine. And see if when you're in the pose and you're in the stillness, can you take an opportunity just to tap in and notice what you're feeling in your body? Like, where are you feeling a stretch right now? And where might you not be feeling something? Or where may you be feeling something that's kind of restricted or tight or tense? When you find something that feels tense or tight or restricted, I want you to imagine wherever that spot is. I mean, it could be in the arm, it could be in the front of the chest, it might be the side of your neck, could be down through the side of the body. I mean, everybody's body is different and so unique, and we don't hold the same tension equally in our bodies. So if you can pick one spot to rest your mind's eye on for a few more breaths, just notice what that area feels like. And imagine it's like a ball of yarn that's really tightly wound up. And you're starting to break that apart, softening the yarn until it's just really loose and it flows really easily. Because that's exactly what happens with the meridian line. The energy flows through and then it hits a blockage. It's like a kink. It's like there's a knot in the yarn and then it softens. The energy tries to soften it. And your breath is the other part that tries to soften as well. You're going to take 2 more breaths, just noticing sensation. And then at the end of your second breath, if you had your right hand back behind you, I want you to start to bring that back in front of your face and press your palm into the mat. You'll use that as kind of a lever to lift yourself up that you can release your left arm and then come back straight onto the belly with your left ear to the mat and your arms down by your sides. And then just pause, because the magic in yin happens in the pause. When we're in the shape, there's always so much going on. We're noticing, oh, this is tight. Oh, is this loosening up? Oh, how does this feel? How does that feel? But we really can't absorb fully what's actually happening until we come into a still moment, pause and take a breath. Okay, all right, we're gonna head to the other side now. So if you need a little bit of a peek up, you can take a look up here. We're back on the belly again. This time the right arm is extending out. And option 1 is just to stay here and rest your forehead down, either on your palm or a block or a cushion. Option 2, you're gonna start to roll over onto your right side, stack your knees, support if you need to. Just adjust the shoulders so that the palm and the arm are flat. And then left arm will reach up and maybe just sit onto the top hip. Maybe you'll take the forearm onto the low back, or maybe the arm will extend up and then just slightly rolling back behind you. And then make any adjustments that you need to ensure that your neck is feeling spacious and comfortable. There's a slight little tilt of your chin down towards your chest. Keep the back of the neck long. Once you settle in and you found stillness, you don't need to adjust anymore. Then I want you to take 3 rounds of that wave breath at your own pace. Don't rush the breath. So really try to nourish your lungs and your chest and your intercostal muscles between your ribs with these nice long deep breaths. The intercostal muscles are tiny, tiny little things. They're like maybe about the size of like string. So they're really thin. They get tight really, really easily. And they often get tight because the breath is shallow. In cold weather, like we're having today, when you're outside, it can definitely get very tight in there. So this particular sequence tonight is really quite beneficial just to allow you to open up. And if you've been sitting most of your day in front of a computer, you'd likely were hunched a little bit forward. This is just a really nice sequence to counterbalance that, bringing your spine with a little bit more nourishment. Continue letting your breath flow. If you've done the three rounds of the 3-part breath, then relaxing the breath and letting it flow naturally. See if you can start to tune into any sensation that you're feeling down through that right arm. And there's a lot of lymph nodes under the armpits. This is another area where a lot of people can get really congested in there and really tight. It can often get very ropey in there as well, especially if you're someone who lifts a lot of weights, does a lot of upper body strengthening. This area can get really tight really quick. And of course, as soon as that gets tight, then it is harder to take a really deep breath. Like you have to almost force, which is not what we're trying to invite in. We're trying to invite in the softness, the openness, the space. And let the breath just naturally go a little deeper and a little longer. And take 3 more cycles of breath, just in and out, slow pace through the nose. And at the end of your 3rd exhale, start to bring that left hand back down in front of your face so that it frames you, and you can slowly press into that hand to unwind. And then we'll place the right ear onto the mat and tuck the arms down by your sides. Bring your big toes a little closer together and just see what you can notice here. Like check both sides of your body, left to right. Sometimes when we're working in a shape and we're slightly compressing an area temporarily of blood flow, you'll feel kind of like this swoosh of blood and energy kind of flowing back in through, and that can often happen with the upper body meridian lines. So notice if you feel any tingling sensation, or sometimes it's equated like almost like a wave motion that's moving through you. That's the energy clearing and removing blockages. From here, you're going to start to bring your hands underneath your shoulders, and you're going to lift yourself up into a table position. And then our next shape, this one can be a little bit challenging. So I'm going to offer a few different options, and then I want you just to kind of choose which one you feel is best. Okay. I'm going to go with most supportive first, and then kind of work my way down. Okay. So most supportive is, if you have 2 blocks, you're going to place the 2 blocks lowest level and stack them one on top of the other. And then you're actually going to sit on the blocks. Okay, so this is Seiza pose. So you're just sitting here with your hands on your lap. Okay, so for some people, especially if you have knee issues, this is probably your best option there. This way there's some cushioning for the tops of the ankles as well. If you have any kind of sensitivity in here, you could wedge like some small little blankets underneath there if you want to. Okay. So that's one option. If this is, if you don't have 2 blocks, but you've got like a block and some cushions, put the block down first and then layer up with cushions. Some of you might feel okay to just sit on 1 block. That might work. You might even turn the block up to the 2nd level. This is a little bit more supportive, but you certainly don't want any kind of strain on the knees at all in this shape. And then the last option is, maybe you just grab a small little towel or cushion or rolled up blanket, wedge it between your heels and sit back onto that. Okay. I always recommend sitting on something, even if you can sit directly between your heels, it's just a lot friendlier on the knee joints themselves. Okay. And then your toes are pointing backwards. And again, you might just stay upright. If you're down quite low and you're not really feeling anything through the front of the legs, I want you to walk your hands back behind you and think of your fingertips like kickstands You're gonna just press your fingertips into the mat and roll your chest forward. And it's like you're squeezing something between your shoulder blades. So the heart and the chest lift, the head does not lift. So you're not looking up, you're either looking forward or just slightly tilting the head down, and then you can close the eyes. If you are sitting more upright, then just bringing the hands onto the lap, but try to keep the chest lifted and proud. So you're not sinking in towards the low back here. So everything is nice and long and lengthened. If at any point you feel any kind of sensitivity in the knees at all, readjust the shape. If at some point it's just not even feeling sustainable anymore, then come out and just rest on your back for a moment instead, okay? You always want to make sure your knees are staying happy. It's not a long hold of this particular shape because it is a little bit more active, especially for those of you that kind of have your hands back behind you and your chest lifted. This is a little bit more of a yang based, or has a yang component to it, to this yin pose called saddle. And then on your own, do 3 rounds of that wave breath. So you're inhaling to the belly and then pause. And then you're taking a little bit more air in, breathing into the ribs. And then you're taking just a little bit more air in and breathing up into the chest. And then you're slowly exhaling the breath. Think of it, when you're breathing in, think about you're breathing into a balloon in 3 parts. And then when you're exhaling, it's like you're just sipping the air out of the balloon. At the end of the 3 rounds of that 3-part breath, then you'll just pause and let the breath come back to neutral. We have about 30 seconds left here. For those of you that are leaning back into your fingers, slowly start to bring your hands back forward, and we'll all meet with just the hands on the lap. The eyes closed. You're still sitting up nice and tall. And then slowly open the eyes. Lift up enough that you can untuck everything that was underneath you. Come over onto one hip. We're just going to take a moment on the back. So keep the knees bent. Roll down onto your spine. You're going to bring your hands onto your belly button. Now, for men, you're going to bring the left hand on the belly first and the right hand on top. For women, you're going to go right hand first and then the left hand on top of the right. And I want you to breathe into your palms. And all of our energy resonates right here. So I just want you to connect to that. And take one more deep breath in. And then slowly just roll over onto one side. Start to make your way up. And then our next pose, we're going to be coming into melting heart, or also known as puppy pose. If you want to have a little bit of cushioning underneath your knees, grab yourself a blanket or a towel, or even just turn the sides of your mat over. have something in front of you. We're going to make this a little bit more, not necessarily restorative, but we're going to just make it a little bit softer. So if you want to grab one block, you're going to place the block at this level here, the second level. I'm going to place it about a quarter of the way down from the top of your mat. Your chest is actually going to rest on here. So you're going to stack your knees and hips in one straight line, and then really anchor the tops of your feet and your shins into the mat. And then you're going to start to walk your chest forward and down. You're going to take that block, place it under the chest. The arms are going to reach out forward. And then you're just going to let your head come down towards the floor. If you have, some shoulder stuff going on, take your elbows out wider towards the edges of your mat and bring your fingertips closer together towards the center. Okay. Try not to let your bum fall backwards or forwards. Try to see if you can take one straight line and then pull your belly just slightly in and up towards your spine, and then pausing here. You're just starting to invite, you're going to do, again, 3 rounds of that really deep breath in. And at the end of your 3rd round, let the control of the breath go. Now, if at any point you start to feel any kind of numbing or tingling sensation in your arms, I want you to come out of the shape and then just rest in child's pose, okay, with the knees together and the hips towards the heels. And keeping your belly just slightly engaged will help to stabilize and protect your lower back, especially around the lumbar area, which is the more mobile part of our spine. So you really want to keep that quite stable and strong. But see if you can just let your chest area melt and soften onto that block. And then you're breathing right into that space there. Well, this is one of the best postures to actually open up your chest and upper back muscles, especially when they're really tight. It can often be an uncomfortable shape when you are tight, but just supporting yourself with the block underneath the chest is really, I find, helps to let my chest soften. We're only here for 5 more breaths. So these upper meridian channels, we tend to hold a little less time. Feel like you're breathing out through the sides of your body. So you're expanding in all directions here, up and down, left to right. Feeling breath move. And at the end of your next exhale, you want to start to engage the core abdominal muscles a little more. This is just to help you stabilize. And you'll start to press into your palms, eventually lifting up. You'll be in a table position. From there, you can take the block out of the way and just come right down onto your belly for a moment and rest. Arms down by the sides, one ear to the mat. Let everything soften. But stay really connected to the breath here, just noticing the breath in and the breath out. Gently place the opposite ear onto the mat. And take another 2 deep breaths. And then place the hands underneath your shoulders. Start to press yourself up. And we're going to take child's pose with the arms down by our sides. So I like to have a block in front of me, and you can go whatever height of block you need. I want you to try to keep your hips onto your heels. So some of you might even put the block up at the highest level. You're going to rest your forehead there. Try to see if you can bring the block to land right at the third eye. So right between the eyebrows there. And then your arms are going to come down by your sides with your palms facing up. So you're coming into shell pose. So you're rounding forward here, softening the belly onto the thighs. And if you find your bum is still kind of sticking up off of your heels, you can tuck something underneath there. So grab like a blanket or cushion, or even if you have another block, you can tuck the block in between there and just kind of level your hips with your heels. Let your fingers spread out a little bit wider apart from one another. And just feel like the energy is moving up through your fingertips, up into your shoulders, your neck, your chest. And you're going to take 3 rounds of that really deep wave breath. So inhaling, and it's a little harder, it's a little more challenging because your belly is resting right up against your thighs. So go a little bit slower. Don't worry about trying to take in too much air. Slow and steady with the breath. And upon completing that 3rd round of breath out, just release the control of the breath completely. Just let it go. And of course, always listening to the body's cues. Anything ever feels painful, too tender, make sure you back out, modify your shape, or just come out and completely rest in a neutral shape. I'm going to take one more breath here. Slowly invite it in and out. And then you'll bring your hands back underneath your shoulders and start to press into your palms to lift yourself up. Once you come upright, just shift over onto one hip for a moment. Take the legs out in front and just see if you can pause here. If you need a little bit of support for your spine, just bring your hands back behind you. Eyes are closed. Just see what you can sense here. See what you can feel. Just let the blood and the energy flow back through the whole body. And then open the eyes. We're going to come down onto the back to do a spinal twist. This spinal twist is going to activate a lot of the meridian channels in the body, but especially the upper meridian lines through the arms. I recommend having your props really close by so that you've got them within hand's reach. I like to put my head and place it on a small cushion. You can grab a small towel or a pillow if you've got one. I just find it's more supportive that way. So once you come down onto your back, your feet will land on the mat, your knees will be together, and your feet will be together. And then if you can cross the left leg over the right, and that doesn't feel like it's, taxing any of your hip joints or your lower back or your knees, then stay here. If that doesn't feel so good, I want you to just keep the knees and the feet side by side, okay? Then you're gonna shift your hips to the left and you're gonna let your knees fall to the right. Now, for most people with the twisted legs, we call this twisted roots, we're gonna tuck something underneath that top knee there. So, you know, grabbing a block is the best option, or maybe a few different blankets if you've got one. And then you're going to reach the left arm up above you and rest the back of the palm and your elbow on the floor. Now, if your elbow is sitting up or the palm, the back of the hand is facing up and you can't land it onto the mat comfortably, then I want you to outstretch it from your shoulder, but see if you can get something to rest either on the floor or grab a cushion or another block and maybe rest your forearm onto there. I want you to see if you can find some place to rest the arm where the arm is above the shoulder line. Okay, that's how you're accessing the upper meridian lines. And then if it's comfortable on the neck, I want you to roll your left ear towards your left shoulder. If that doesn't feel good, then I want you to keep your head in a neutral position. You're just going to slowly start to sip breath in like you would be taking air in through a straw. So nice and slow. Just imagining that breath traveling all the way up the length of the spine and all the way back down. And this is such a great posture to do at the end of the night. Just wringing out your spine of like any tension or stress from your day. And with the arm extended up, then you're also just receiving a lot of, you know, blood flow and energy into the arm and just releasing any of the stagnation that might be in through there. And see if you can notice what your breath is like right now. How might it be different from beginning of class? See. Try not to force or change anything in a way that no longer feels organic or natural. You might even take your right hand and place it over top of your chest and just see what it's like to breathe into that palm. In the exercise, the acupressure exercise we did at the beginning of class, that in itself is like such an amazing practice to open up your chest. So even if you didn't do the yin portion of the practice, you'd still get the physical and the energetic benefit from just doing the acupressure. I'm going to take one more round of breath. And once you're done that second exhale out through the nose, then just start to bring the head back to center if you had it turned to the left. And then sweep your left arm down by your side. And then slowly, using your right hand, pick up your knees and come back onto your back. And pause here. Both arms down by your sides, palms face up. Knees are still bent, feet are on the mat. Just notice what things feel like here. Notice how your back feels. Notice how the chest and the ribs and the lungs. Notice how they inflate and deflate. And then let's slowly veer to the other side. So now If you took the twisted roots variation on the left, you're going to do the same thing on this side. So you're going to take that right leg and cross it over top of the left. Otherwise, then the knees and the feet are still side by side. This time you'll shift your hips to the right. Your knees are going to fall to the left. Again, prop up the knee if it's sitting up off the floor. And this time you're going to reach that right arm up above your head and try to see if you can land the elbow and the back of the hand onto either the earth or onto some layer of support. So it's not just hanging there. And you want the shoulder to be properly supported so that energy can flow properly. And also so that you can just release the physical tension. I mean, if the arm is just hanging there, it's going to engage the musculature, which isn't going to give you an effective release of any tension that you might be holding in your chest or in your arm. And then maybe your right ear will land softly down towards the right side. Or maybe you're just going to keep that head centered. Invite the wave of the breath in and out through the nose. Letting everything soften. If it helps, you can also place your left hand on top of your chest to encourage those deeper breaths. See if you can tune into what you're feeling here. If you pay attention, your body will always tell you what's going on. It will signal, it will give you clues, little bits of information, little bits of sensory sensations through the body. And it's whether we are actively paying attention to that or not. Most of the time, we're just moving too much to not really notice what's happening. I'm going to take 3 more rounds of breath. Just slow and deep, steady and smooth. And at the end of your 3rd breath, you'll gently unwind and come back onto the back. And then again, you're going to place your hands on your belly. So for the guys, the left hand goes first, the right hand goes over top of the left. For women, it's the other way. Right first, left on top. The way I always remember that, my teacher told me, well, my professor told me, is women are always right. So the right hand goes first. I don't necessarily believe that, but anyways, that's how I often would remember energetically which hand to put for myself, because yeah, women are always right. Now here, with your hands all over top of your belly, I want you to make 3 circles in one direction, and then 3 circles in the opposite direction. This really helps to nourish the nervous system to relax, so you get a better night's sleep. And who doesn't want a better night's sleep? And then you'll pause at center, and then you're going to bring your hands, just slide them up to your rib cage, And you're going to do the same thing. You're going to make 3 circles going in one direction, right over the center there. This is your solar plexus, also known as your second brain. And then you'll do 3 rounds of circles in the opposite direction. And then you'll extend your arms or your hands up onto your chest, like right onto the breastbone, and do again 3 circles in one direction. And then 3 circles in the opposite direction. And then with your hands placed there, you'll take 1 deep breath in and 1 long breath out. Then you're going to make your way into Shavasana from here. So if you're feeling really sleepy and you feel like you might pass out, then maybe you might come up into a seated meditation position. Otherwise, if you're resting on your back, just prop yourself up in any way that feels supportive. If you want to cover yourself up with a blanket or slide the blocks underneath your knees, or even just if you have a small towel to put over top of your eyes, you're going to rest your arms somewhere comfortable down by your sides. Nod the chin down towards the chest. And then let the eyes really close softly. And then once you know that you can be completely still here, you'll take 1 really deep breath in through the nose. And then open the mouth, letting it out. And then just let the breath go. So let the control of the breath go. Let your body absorb your practice. Even if you don't necessarily know what you might have cleared out or what tense part of your body might have released, just know that whatever it is that you needed from your practice, you received, whether there was a conscious awareness of that or not. See if you can tap in these moments of stillness here. What you can feel maybe traveling through. Where do you feel a little more open and spacious? And then if you find an area that just feels like it's opened, just notice, what does that actually feel like in that part of my body? If I were to slightly move that area, what would it feel like? You can imagine like you're in a kayak on the ocean and the ocean's very, very still. And you've got that oar in your hand and you're just making your way through the ocean using that oar, and the oar is just traveling so smoothly and with so little effort. That's what it feels like in your body when the tissues, the fascia, the joints, the ligaments have softened and have removed and cleared blockages of tension, stress. So even if you're not experiencing that in this moment, just think of that analogy and start to bring now some deep breaths into your body. Take a few rounds of that 3-part breath. And I invite you to notice if and how it feels different than when you started class. And the breath might have been a little bit more shallow or restricted. And now if you choose, you can stay here and I'll leave you in Shavasana if you want to hang out there a little bit longer and just enjoy and soak that up. If you feel like you are ready to complete your practice, then you'll just slowly and mindfully take your time to come up to a seat. And you'll take a moment just to honor the ability to have carved out this hour for yourself, this time, by bringing your hands together in front of the heart. And then just bowing the chin and the forehead down towards the fingers. And taking one really deep breath in and out. Namaste, everyone. I hope you have a really peaceful rest of your day and a wonderful restorative night's sleep. Keep your chest warm until you're ready to go to bed and try to keep the back of your neck warm as well. So scarf it up or put a nice big thick blanket over top of you or a nice big sweater before you're ready to go to bed. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. See you guys next time.